Hi guys, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jennifer Nxumalo. I do hope that you join us by clicking that red subscribe button on the bottom, and also don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up. That is if you like the content that we serve in this channel. So on today's video, we are going to be doing a Q&A. Now my family has been growing. This family has been growing on this channel, and I couldn't be more grateful. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And so I thought that it is time for us to actually do a Q&A on this channel because we've never done one. I did get a suggestion in the comment section on one of my videos that can I do a Q&A when I have time, and I figured, you know what, I have time, let us do one. And it is the right time because we just hit the 5,000 mark when it comes to subscribers in this community. And so I think the next one will be when we hit 10,000 subscribers or 15,000. I will see. For now, we are going to be doing the Q&A. So I put out a post on YouTube, and I also put out a story on Instagram just asking people to share their questions if they want to get to know me more, and also if they have questions relating to career, relating to career, personal finance, and also just wanting to know about me more. And so people did put through their questions. Thank you to each and every one of you that actually did put in their questions. I really appreciate it. So we're going to start with the YouTube questions because I just feel like that is the right place to start with when it comes to the questions, because that is the main platform. What I use after that, which is like Instagram, is actually more so for marketing. I used to be big on Instagram, but not as much because sometimes it gives me anxiety. But let us get into the questions first on YouTube, and then we're gonna go into the Instagram questions. So guys, and it's so hot here in Cape Town. By the way, I'm in Cape Town. I don't know if this video will come after or what, but yes, I'm filming this in Cape Town. That's why the setup is different. Okay, let's get into the questions. Okay, the first question we got from Chrisandra, yes, I think I'm spelling that right. Lamine, I think. So Chrisandra is asking, what propelled you into taking this financial journey? Was it curiosity or necessity? When it comes to personal finance, I've always loved it. I think I've shared this in some of my videos. I've always loved personal finance. Even when I didn't have like a stable job or a good income, I just liked personal finance. I watched a lot of personal finance content, but I think I got more serious when I got permanent, and now I needed to make changes because I had done a lot of things that have put me in a very bad financial state when it comes to the amount of debt that I had in conjunction with how much I was getting paid. And that is when I became more serious and more intentional in terms of just learning more. But I've just always liked financial content. I've always liked finances. I remember when I was still in level 6 in my job, I actually used to have a personal finance blog, and I used to write about money, financial tips and all the stuff. And then I also used to write for my department, and so I used to write there for articles relating to personal finance. Now that's back when I didn't even have a YouTube channel, and so I've always liked personal finance. I just feel like it's something that I can relate to whether I have money or not. I just like personal finance. But as I said, I got more intentional in my journey when I actually realized that I needed to make changes. Now that was after my blog, because as much as I was doing that blog, my finances were not bad then. However, there was a time where everything just took a turn. And so I even stopped blogging about finance then because I just felt like I was being an imposter, like I'm talking about finance, but I'm struggling with mine. And so I stopped. And then I just decided to go back into it. I think, was it last year or last of last year? I think it was last of last year. I decided to just go back into it, learn, not even last of last year, because I remember I read Rich Dad Poor Dad when I was still in my previous job, in the level that I was in. And that was in 2018. I think I read the book in 2018. And that changed everything for me. And that's when I felt like I needed to make change. And so I think I've answered the question. I hope that I have. What's your goal future in 5 years? So basically, where do I see my life in 5 years? Honestly, I feel like I've achieved so much in a short space of time that planning for the future now is going to require a lot of thinking and a lot of introspection in terms of, okay, what have I achieved and what more do I want to achieve. So what I've done when I read this book, The Power of Now. So for the person who's asking me, who will ask, there will be a question about books, so you guys can pick up from my responses the type of books that I've read. So I read the book The Power of Now, I think about 4 years ago, if not 5. I read that book, and that book changed my perspective when it comes to life and just being grateful and showing gratitude when it comes to the things that you have achieved, and more so embracing where you are. So when I read that book, it really shifted me from always wanting more, and more so that as I want more, I need to be more grateful of where I am. And right now, I feel like I've achieved so much in a short space of time. Like, I've dealt with so much of my debt. I am at a space whereby I'm really content with my life. Doesn't mean that I don't want more. I do. However, I'm not feeling pressed to be thinking about a future a lot, because end of the day, it does take away from being appreciative of the present. However, when it comes to 5 years from now, when I just see my life, I see my life still being content, living a life of abundance. And abundance has been a word that I put every year. Whenever I'm planning for the year, abundance is the word. And I still put it there because I don't think I've reached the level of abundance that I want. And so that is where I see my life 5 years from now, abundance holistically when it comes to my life. That's the gist of where I see my life in 5 years. By the way, the previous question was from Vicky. Okay, so Asanele asked, how do you keep yourself motivated towards saving? Okay, so I would say that, Asanele, you need to have clear financial goals. So for me, that's where things changed. I used to be the type of saver where I would save and then I'll go back and use that money. And then I found myself, like in a hamster wheel. And that's why I even changed my strategy going forward, that I'm not going to be part of as many stokvels, because whenever I'm saving in stokvels, I don't really have intentional goals. Instead, when I'm saving alone, I'm very clear when it comes to the goals that I have for my savings. So I'll give you an example. I have an emergency fund that I'm saving for. I have an education fund that I'm saving for. These things have clear goals and the clear roles for it. And so the last thing that I'm going to be doing is to rush towards my child education fund or rush towards my emergency fund when there isn't really a need, or the money that I'm going to be taking isn't really for that specific purpose. And so what I'm saying here is you need to be clear about what are you saving for. If you are going to be part of a stokvel, tell yourself, okay, this money that I'm saving is for this and this and this. And whatever that your goal is, it must really make sense to you. It must really be important to you. CM is asking, are you planning to buy a car soon? No, I'm not planning to buy a car soon. Sompo is asking, I saw in one of your comments that your highest qualification is Masters in Administration. So in your undergraduate, did you study Bachelor of Administration, and do you recommend other people to study it, and why? So yes, I do have a master's degree in administration, specifically in government, because that's where my research was. And I did an undergraduate in administration, and then I just progressed from undergraduate to honors, and then from honors I did my master's. And yes, I do recommend people to study further, and the reason why I say that is because, but this depends on if you can get resources to fund you for your studies. So for me, I was funded by NSFAS for my undergraduate, and then honors, yeah. Back then, honors was still funded under NSFAS, but now it has changed. However, there's still NRF. So if you can get your hands in funding, I would actually recommend you that you continue studying and not just end on a degree. Okay, and the reason why is that many people have qualifications now, diplomas, degrees. A lot of people have access to education now. And so you want to have an edge when it comes to applying for jobs. So if you just come with your bachelor's degree, there's someone who might come with honors, might come with masters, and that person will have a better advantage more than you. And so I would really advise that you actually you study further, and that is if you do have access to funds. So if you can get yourself some funding to continue studying, do that. If you decide that you're gonna go and work, so let's say you go in and you do an internship and then you get a permanent job after, which is very good, I would suggest that don't stop studying, actually continue studying. So yes, you need to study further. Navia is asking, what personal development books are you reading or have you read? Which of these books stood out for you? As I said, I've mentioned Rich Dad Poor Dad. I've mentioned Power of Now. Power of Now is it's not for everyone, but I feel like when you become very intentional about personal growth and also spiritual growth, you will enjoy the Power of Now, because it's just a holistic book that will make you appreciate life and make you because one thing, as I said, for me, it was always, what is next? What is next? That book taught me that I don't need to be always looking for the next, because there really isn't such a thing as a future. There is always now. We never get to the future, because the future doesn't exist. And so that book for me really changed my perspective when it comes to how I look at life, The Power of Now. And I'll also recommend you to read The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. I read that book about maybe 7 years ago, if not, 7 years ago. And that book also changed my perspective on life. I know the impact it had in my life. I remember the time I was doing my master's and I went back, I was visiting my partner during the time. And then when I went back to varsity, everything just changed. My outlook changed. Even my drive towards me completing my research changed. And so I do know that that book was very impactful in my life. And it also really propelled me to be intentional about waking up early. Other ones I've forgotten, guys. And then Navia also asked, are you on track with the savings that you do with your mom for your family home? When are you planning to start with the construction? Does your family own a home currently? So I'll start first with, does our family own a home currently? Yes, we do. We've had a home. If there's one thing my dad did right when he was alive, was to build us a home. And he didn't stay long in that house before he passed away, but he made sure that we had a roof over our heads. And even back then, guys, that house was beautiful, especially in the township that we're in. The way that he did it was just beautiful. So yes, we do have a home, a good enough home for us. The issue is location. That is the only problem with our home. The home itself, not a problem, because I've renovated it. I've done all the things that we need in a home, but the problem is the location. It is far. That is the reason why we are saving towards another home. And so yes, we are on track of saving for this. My mother not so much, even I myself, I paused because I was just not into it. So I paused from saving for it. But we do have the finances that we have saved so far. And also, we don't know when we are going to start, because we still need to get a site. And getting a site that is affordable right now has been very hard in areas that we would like to be in. So we haven't started. We don't know when we are going to start. As soon as we know that we have a site, then we can say we're going to start something. But also, when we have a site, my decision was that I don't want to get into debt trying to move my family, because that is the last thing I want to do. I've been in debt because I was doing that for my family, renovating at home. I don't want to do the same thing again. So what I'm planning to do is, when we get a site, I'm just going to fence it, put a gate. That is it. And then continue saving, and then until we have substantial amount. So let's say, for instance, we save up to 50k, then we start with the foundation, we start with building the walls, and then we continue saving until, we're going to do it in phases, because we don't have a lot of money lying around for us to just do it all at once. And as I said, the last thing that I want to do is go open a debt because I want to move my family. I'm not doing that anymore. And then Navia also asked, how do you budget for renovations for home? How do you prioritize home projects? I don't normally budget for this, guys. If I'm being honest, I'm just going to be honest. In all the things that I've done, I do budget for it. But some of the times what I do is I put my major renovations when I'm going to have a large sum of money. So when I'm going to bonus, that's when I put the renovations there, because there's more money than what I normally get. So that's when I would budget for it. But on a month to month basis, I don't normally budget for renovations. No, I don't. Maybe I'll just budget for items. Sometimes I don't even budget for items. I'll just look at how much money I have and then I'll go buy that item. But when it comes to budgeting for renovations, I normally wait for it until I have a large sum of money. So if I'm going to get a bonus, then I'm going to put my renovations there. Then that's when I'm going to do it. So that's how I've done my renovations in the past, and I think that's how I'm going to continue doing it, because it just makes financial sense for me. My salary on a month-to-month basis is not enough for me to be doing renovations on, especially because I'm also trying to save for home as well. So yeah. Navia also asked, for how long do you intend to be in your current home? Will you sell it off to buy the next home, or will you keep the first home as an investment property? I've decided that I'm not going to keep my current home as an investment property. That is because the economy is too crazy for me right now. The money that I'm paying for the bond is too ridiculous for me to say I'm going to keep it as an investment, because however money that the people pay for rent in my complex will be lower than what I pay for the bond, and then you also have to add rates over that, and so it doesn't really make financial sense for me to actually keep that house as an investment. But it will be an investment such that when I sell it now, because of the things that I've done to it, it will be obviously more. So yes, I will be selling that house. I do have intentions of actually getting a bigger house. Then another question for Navia is, how has budgeting and keeping track of your spending changed your life? I hope you don't mind the questions. No, I don't mind. I don't really keep track of my spending, because I'm not that person that goes back and say, how much did I spend for this? How much did I spend for this? Except if it's in my budget. So I don't keep track of every small thing if it's not a line item in my budget. So what I mean here is, if let's say I said for water and electricity I'm going to be paying this much, yes, then I'm going to go back, and I'm not even going to go back. As I'm paying for these things, I then track it, because then I see that, okay, how much went out for this. But in most cases, I'm not really an expense tracker. I don't track such things. I just feel like it's too much work for me. But what I do is I make sure that I budget for each and every cent, and then I make sure that I pay accordingly. And then if there's more, I'm just going to note that down. If I paid less, I'm going to note that down. So what that has changed in my life is that my finances is more structured now than before. I know what's coming in, I know what goes out, I understand my priorities, and I always stick to my priorities. I don't find anyone calling me and telling me that we didn't receive the payment. If that happened, it is never a good feeling, and I make sure that I act on it quickly. And so what that has done, me being intentional about my finances and planning for it, is that it has allowed for me to have structure when it comes to my life, and a peace of mind as well. That is what it has changed for me. And then Babongile says, hi Jen, any plans on buying another property? Will you consider buying another property? Definitely, I would consider buying another property, and I actually want to have many properties, not just in Gauteng. Like, I really want to have property in KZN as well. It doesn't have to be a structure, but I would like to have sites, like lots and lots of sites, because I just feel like having land is wealth, not for me, but also for my kids. So I want to have as much property as possible. And it does, as I said, not all of them have to be livable, but so long as I know that under my assets I have land, I want to have that. So yes, I am planning to buy another property. Babongile also said, lesson learned from your hair care product business. Okay, lesson learned is that business is hard. Business is hard. It's not as easy. It's not as easy as it looks. When you see someone sustaining a business, it's not as easy. Actually, starting a business is not hard, ne? It is very challenging and exciting, but sustaining a business is not easy. There are a lot of costs that are involved when you're running a business, and so I learned that the hard way, and that is why I had to let go of both of my businesses. So that is what I learned from my business. And then Mabongile also asked, what's your view when it comes to finances and couples? My view is that you do have to talk about this. You don't have to be the same. About this thing of saying people, yo, my partner, we must be the same, and wara when it comes to money, you don't have to be the same. You are not the same people. You don't have the same personalities. And that's also like, you don't want to be attracted to someone that is same. No. So, but you want to be able to discuss these things with your partner. For me, what has been easier is that my partner is just not a stingy person. That has just made life easier for me. But more than anything, I do feel like this is something that you should be able to discuss with your partner. You should be able to share your ideas and your ideologies when it comes to personal finance, your plans as well. And just so that you understand where each one is at. You don't have to know how much your partner gets paid unless you are married. That is none of your business, as I said, unless you are married. But it is important to know how much debt your partner is in, whether you are married or not, so that you know what you're getting yourself into, or what the things that you possibly have to deal with when it comes to money. So that is what I can say. They said, so Pell is asking, please share insights on retirement plan or savings for retirement. Which options is best? Or you also do have it with Franc. You do it with Franc. So when it comes to retirement plans, guys, I haven't really been active on this, and the reason why is because I just feel like I was not in that age to be very active with this. So automatically I do have, guys, I feel like my boobs are showing on the dress. So automatically I do have a retirement, pension fund saved with my employer that I also contribute towards every month. And it's not just a small amount, guys. Going beyond that at my age, and I'm talking about me leading up to 30, has not been a priority, because I'm an avid believer that I don't have to always be living for the future. So it's important to have structures for the future, basics. So as I said, I have a pension fund that I have with my employer. I do have a life cover. I do have a funeral cover. Okay, that's enough for me right now in my life currently. It's enough, and so I think I don't really have anything beyond that, but I do think that everyone should have a retirement plan. So if, let's say, you don't have one with the employer, you should have one separately, privately. You should have one. I wouldn't put my retirement fund with Franc. I just feel like that's not the platform was not made for that. It was not made for that. And if you want to have a retirement fund that maybe you don't have it, look into companies that specialize in that. Like, really do your research and look into companies that specialize in that. I would really advise you to look at Ellen Gray, also Investec. Yeah, avoid as much as possible to go with these insurance companies. Avoid to do that. Go with financial institutions that will package your retirement plan properly. Yeah, but don't do it with Franc. Franc was not designed for that. Another question is for Lerato. Hi, Jennifer. I've been a property owner for 3 years now, and I desperately need a car and not really into anything fancy, but I'm worried that I'll be rejected for credit to buy a car because of paying for a bond. Any advice? Actually, you did a good thing by buying property first before buying a car, because getting a car is much easier than getting property. When it comes to property, this is a long-term investment, and so they really go in and analyze your finances. But when it comes to a car, I don't think that if you were to go out now and shop for a car, you will be rejected. You won't be rejected, but it will come down to you in terms of what can you afford. So before you go out and look for a car, I would say sit down and look at your finances. How much money can you really afford to buy a car, and not on how much money am I left with after I've spent on anything. After you are left with 5,000, the question that I would ask is, are you still able to save before you are left with 5,000, or is it after? So are you saving from the 5,000, or you are saving before, and then after you've saved, then you are left with 5,000, and then from that 5,000 you then want to say, okay, how much would I be willing to pay for insurance? How much would I be be willing to pay for the installment? How much would I be able to pay for all these nitty-gritties? And also, how much would I be possibly left with for petrol? Because you want to make sure that you understand all of that before you go looking for a car. Because once you know that, then you understand which car can you qualify for, and then you'll be very conservative when it comes to your car search. ESL teacher asks, hey, I would like to ask which one is better when it comes to salary deductions between private sector or government. Which one gets more deductions? I honestly wouldn't know because I've never worked in the private sector, but I do think that it's just the same. You pay your tax based on how much you get paid. What I know is that in government there are more benefits. So if you're looking for benefits, government is the place. If you're looking for potentially higher salary, private sector is the place. But that higher salary comes with the responsibility that you have to pay for most of these things from yourself without getting support from your employer. The difference with government, the reason why we get paid this much, it is because the government has to contribute towards these things for us as well. Like for my house, for the bond that I have, the government pays me a certain amount for the fact that I have a house, you know. And then there's also medical aid benefits, there's pension, you know, so just basic things like that. So I wouldn't know when it comes to the deductions in both sides. Yeah. Monye asks, how do you stay disciplined? I think, as I said in the beginning of the video, for me, setting goals is very important. That's how I stay disciplined. And then also YouTube helps me to stay accountable, because once I've put it out here, it's very important that I stick to that decision. What's your take on black tax, and how and when do you set boundaries? I did a video on black tax. I'm actually going to link it down below. It goes into detail regarding black tax and how to set boundaries. And so to avoid this video, Fezega is asking this question, by the way, to avoid this video getting very long, I will just link the video down here. I'll also put it here so that you can see the thumbnail. So when you go to my videos, you will see what video I'm talking about. But the better option is to just click the link that I'm going to put below on the description box. Another question is from Raphaelia. She's asking, how do you balance saving and spending for enjoyment? I'm not really an enjoyment type of person, and so for me this is really not a problem. I think the only challenge is saving and then having to prioritize myself. But enjoyment, you know, going out, what, it's not my vibe. But when it comes to prioritizing myself, I don't do that. And so that has been the biggest struggle, but I'm trying. Like this month, I made a decision that I'm going to put a line item of me on the budget, even though it's not much, but it's a start for me. Nona's asking, hi Jen, do you keep track of your expenses? If you do, how often do you do it? Daily, weekly? Another question, or every time you purchase something. Another question will be how to stay in budget. So I don't track my expenses. I just feel like it makes me operate on a mentality of scarcity, and so I just avoid doing that. I don't track my expenses. I don't think that it's important for me to track my expenses. I do think that it's important for me to budget though. And how I stay within budget is that I just try to be practical with my budget, to understand what I can afford and what I can't afford, and also to plan for all the things that I know that there are always the disturbances when it comes to me not sticking to budget. That is why now I have weekly allocation. Beyond me paying for my expenses and saving, how am I going to live leading up to the next payday? That is how I'm able to stay in budget now, because now I actually allocate money for each and every week's spending. So that is how I do it. And then Ntabi is asking, if you were headhunted for a job in private sector, would you leave government and take it? No, I'm not really. My qualification is government, and more so government and less private sector. That the private sector is not for me. That is why I've never really applied for private sector. I've applied for NGOs, I've applied for public entities, I've applied in government. I like government. I actually enjoy government. I would work for public entities as well. But private, no, I wouldn't go for private, regardless of how much they would pay me. No. CM is asking, are you planning to get married and have more children? Hope you don't mind the personal question. I don't know if thing is, I just feel like as a woman, you can't be saying I'm planning to get married unless you are engaged. Then you can plan to get married. Otherwise, you can't be planning to get married when you are not engaged. So I'm not. I would love to get married, but I'm not planning to get married because I'm not engaged yet. But once I'm engaged, then I would plan to get married. But right now, I would love to get married. I would love to have more kids, but not too many kids because, guys, see, with financial crisis, and the last thing that I want is to bring children and not be able to fund their life. How do you plan to fund your daughter's university? Interesting question. Okay, so if you've noticed in my budget, there's a fund called education fund. That's not my education, that's actually my child's education. So when I have another child, I'm gonna open another account with Franc and actually save for the child as well. So that's how I'm planning to fund my child's university. I'm actually saving for her now, and she's 5. I'm saving for her now. By the time she turns 18, there will be a sizable amount and that will come in handy. And then Mrs. Tia is asking, how do you handle working with different personalities in terms of emotional intelligence? Honestly, I used to struggle with this when I was in my previous job because the personalities were just too different for me and too many that it really did pose, challenges for me mentally. But then what I did was I just learned to detach myself. Whenever I was leaving the job in the afternoon, I would detach myself from there and I wouldn't use my job to define me. Even now, my job doesn't define me. I am Jennifer Zanele Ngomalo beyond my job. My job is where I go to make money so that I can live the life that I live, but it doesn't define me. And so I don't get attached to people in my job. I don't get attached to circumstances. I don't overthink situations. So let's say, for instance, someone is this type of personality. Yes, if I see that it's a toxic personality, I will note that, but I'm not going to dwell on that. I'm not going to dwell on that and allow that to control my day-to-day experience with the people that I'm working with. Yes, I will know which man is like this, but I'm not going to let that now control everything and control my narrative when it comes to work and my perspective when it comes to work. Mrs. Tia asked as well, what is the secret to grow within public sector in terms of going up in positions? I would say the first thing is education. You need to educate yourself. Once you are in there, don't stay, especially if you got in there for a lower qualification. I have a master's degree, but I also still feel like I would like to go and get a postgraduate diploma in something, because I feel like it will help me towards something that I may want in terms of my career development. So what I've noticed with people in government is that they don't stop studying. So don't stop studying. Continue to study, get higher qualifications. But also another thing is, and I see this a lot in people in government, people saying it's not my job. Scrap that from your vocabulary. Don't have such statements in your vocabulary because they also impact how you act towards giving more responsibility. You become negative. You are this person that, what's the point? Because, another thing is, whenever you are giving more responsibility to do something, it's not because people are thinking I'm going to give you a promotion, because people are always thinking, what am I going to get out of this? It's not about you always, but it's about actually doing the job and representing yourself well, such that if opportunities were to come, you will be considered. But it's not because if I ask you to do this for me, then it means that when time comes, I'm going to promote you. Sometimes it doesn't have a direct correlation. And that is why I'm saying scrap the word, it's not my job in your vocabulary, and just do the job. Do the thing that you are being asked to do without complaining. And eventually all those actions that you have taken, the positive actions, being a person that people can rely on, being eager to do things, it's going to come back and actually count when that time comes where you now have to grow. And the people that you are helping might not even be there, but because when you've gained so much experience, you've improved personally and how you work, it is easy for you to actually translate that during an interview and show people that you are a dependable person, you're a person that respects your job and a person that anyone can trust when it comes to work. that is how you can get higher when it comes to government, but also applying. You can't get anywhere without applying. What's your educational background? Under and postgraduate. I have Bachelor of Administration undergraduates, and then I did it up to master's level. So that is my qualification. And then, yeah, that is it. I did it with UKZN. Tandega is asking, do you have any tips for someone that's preparing to buy property on a single income? Get your finances straight and in order. So Tandega is asking that, get your finances straight and in order. If there's one thing that I did before I bought my property, was I just got my finances in order first. So I dealt with majority of my debts, you know, consumer debt, store debt, like, you know, your Edgar's, your Woolworths accounts, all those. I got rid of such accounts so that I would free up more money, ne? And then I worked on my credit score. So what was my credit score has never been bad, but I just worked on it even more. Like, I paid for things on time, you know, my credit was actually, it went up very well. And so by the time when I was applying for property, my credit score was high, my finances looked much better, such that I was able to get a better interest rate when it comes to my property. So that's what you want to do. You want to work on your credit score. You want to work on your current debts. You don't have to close them, but make sure that you pay for them on time. If you are going to have a credit card, use it and pay for it so that you can work on your credit score. So don't have things that come to deduct and they bounce. Those things do record, and then they end up affecting your credit score. And then you find that when you now want to buy property, your credit score is low. But you can buy property on a single income. You don't need someone to help you to buy property. You just buy something that is within your budget. Buy something that is within your budget. Don't buy something that is don't go for things that are way beyond your budget, or something that matches your budget. So let's say, for instance, if you check and they say you qualify for a 700,000 house, don't go and buy a 700,000 house. Buy a 500,000 house. You will thank me later when you do that, actually. Okay, last question. Simply Known is asking, getting bank funds using payslip, not statement. Saw this on TikTok. Yes, your payslip is actually your bank statement. Like, well, not your bank statement, but it's proof of income. And actually, it holds much more value than a bank statement, because it shows firstly that you are employed, definitely employed, and that yes, every month this is your salary and you are permanently employed. And so banks trust you. Banks trust you more than if you are not permanently employed. And so you don't have, it's just basic banking requirements. When you are going to apply for funds, you can either come with your payslip, or you can come with your bank statement, or you can come with both. So let's say you want to buy a car, you can bring your payslip, your last 3-month payslip. You can bring your 3-month bank statement. It doesn't really matter. But what is important is that you need to show the proof of income, and your payslip is proof of income. So that is it for this video. I hope that I answered all your questions very well. And as I said, for things that I do have videos on, I'm going to link them down below, because some of those things like black tax I've went into detail about. And then when it comes to my education and all the stuff, also I will link that video that says get to know me, because it does go into detail in terms of my education and my career. So I will link it down below. But for the rest of the questions, I hope that I answered them well enough. And so with that being said, I hope that you guys stay well and keep safe. Until I see you on the next one, please take care and stay safe. Bye.